Hello, changemakers. Welcome back to yet another inspiring session of Realize. I'm Brittany Hillard, WalkMe's VP of Customer Experience, and your guide on this exciting journey to uncover all the secrets behind successful change management and digital adoption. In today's episode, we are thrilled to have Senior Manager Deepti Singh and Senior Consultant Lindsay Stokes here to share their magic with us. Imagine transforming your digital landscape with ease, boosting efficiency, and enhancing your operations. That's what Deloitte brings to the table with their DAP-powered ERP transformations. Deloitte's actionable strategies illuminate how adaptability and new change technology can lead to incredible breakthroughs, bringing real, lasting transformation to your business. You'll get to see firsthand how embracing these methodologies can not only smoothen your go-live transitions, but also create a healthy lifestyle of continuous adoption and efficiency. Get ready to soak up every bit of knowledge that our friends from Deloitte are about to lay down. Let's get started.
My name is Deepti Singh, and I've been with Deloitte for over 12 years now. I am part of Deloitte's human capital practice, and I spend my time helping clients in their large, complex digital transformation journeys through change management, learning, and workforce strategies.
And I'm Lindsay Stokes. I'm part of our digital adoption platforms services team at Deloitte. I've been at Deloitte for about 3.5 years. And I work closely with our WalkMe Alliance, and I help with some of the market activation and overseeing our WalkMe implementation projects. Deepti, could you tell us a little bit more about your perspective of ERP transformations at Deloitte?
Absolutely, Lindsay. When I think about ERP transformation, I relate them very closely to a fitness journey transformation, right? Say you want to live a healthier lifestyle and you set goals for yourself. Your goals could be doing a set number of push-ups. It could be running a marathon. It could be biking a certain distance. ERPs are no different. However, for ERPs, that goal is set to that go-live date. Many organizations, they're always running towards that go live, singular view of go live, which is attributing to the success of an ERP implementation without realizing that ongoing or supported adoption requirements are critical to make that stick, right? If we can absolutely ignore the underlying changes that an ERP brings, right, which is changes to your business processes, bringing in operational efficiencies, impacts to your culture, impacts to your workforce. So it's easy to narrow our focus down to just a successful go live and ignoring other factors like operational efficiencies, business process changes, etc. We can design the best system in the world and have a super successful go live, but unless we have our workers adopt the system and transact in that seamlessly, we are not reaping the benefits that we are after.
So how do we typically right-size this type of change?
Yes. So as we think about our fitness journey, right? Like, first of all, we need to understand what is the amount of transformation that's required for you. Is it as simple as incorporating exercise in your daily routine, or it is bringing in drastic changes like changing your eating and drinking habits completely? Looking at the ERP lens again, they are the same, correct? It could be as a simple upgrade, moving from your current ERP system to another ERP system, which means there are minimal changes that are coming to your workers. However, if you're moving from manual processes to a new ERP system, your world is changing, right? Your workers are going to experience a whole lot change in their day-to-day life and interactions with the system, which will require a well-structured and thought-of change program. Between the transform and the update, there are also middle roads of transformation, which we call it modernize and accelerate. Again, the changes that your end user population experience for as part of these are somewhere between the update and transform. So they can get away with some level of change and app support, but not exhaustive as a transform. Thinking about the change portfolio for a transform kind of project, right, where your underlying business processes are changing, there might be impacts to your operating model, your staffing model, ways of working, and culture overall. DAP fits in appropriately with this whole portfolio, right? So we start with web-based training, which will give you an overview, for example, of what's coming your way. Then we have some traditional communication pieces, which will explain to your finance organization about what is the new cost center, what is the new profit center, how to to read them in that hierarchy process. And then we talk about digital adoption platforms like WalkMe, which will provide in-application guidance and support in a post-go-live environment to support your users as they are using or conducting those transactions in the system. We talked a little bit about right-sizing the change, right? Tell me, according to you, what are some of the critical elements of a successful transformation?
Yeah. So there's a few different ways that we've seen WalkMe be successfully used pre-go live. I'll start with that. And the first thing I want to talk about is around testing. With these big ERP transformations, we see multiple different phases of testing. And as we get into the later phases of testing, such as UAT, we're bringing in bigger groups to help support that testing. And so leveraging a tool like WalkMe can be easy access for these users for their test scripts. It can also help guide them to how to report and track defects as they're performing their testing in the system. The bigger event that we typically see WalkMe used prior to go live is in-user training. And I know you just talked about this a little bit, but we would typically pair WalkMe with other types of training modalities that would provide the user the context behind what's changing and why it's changing. And then we would leverage WalkMe to more focus on those technology side of the change. In this phase of the project, we would typically see the WalkMe content be a little bit more linear. So we're going to show users the happy path of how to complete a process, or more overviews or tours of the system at large, really just getting them familiar with the application before they're live in the production environment. And then we can apply segmentation to the end user training to make sure that users are only seeing what's applicable to them. So we can kind of tailor that training to make sure that we're targeting the roles and responsibilities of that user in the ERP. And then for post-training, we also see WalkMe used in a few different ways. We try to shift the focus of WalkMe post-training to be more long-term adoption focused rather than training and onboarding focused. So to bring this back to that fitness analogy, we typically see WalkMe used to help organizations avoid that fitness plateau and to really help them with that journey to continue to a healthy lifestyle. So there's a few different ways that we do this. One is through cross-application support. So in these big ERP transformations, ERPs are integrated with multiple different boundary systems. So users could be starting a process in one application and ending it in another application. And leveraging tools like WalkMe allows us to provide guidance to the user throughout that whole journey. So we can give the support end to end, no matter what application or where they are. Another example is the robust metrics that WalkMe provides in their Insights platform. Not only can we see the usage of all of the WalkMe content that has been published, but we can also see where users are falling out, how long they're taking to complete processes, and then we can leverage that data to really look to see what type of enhancements might make sense. Is there any redesign or new content that's needed to really support the users now that they're live in the system, focusing more on user pain points and creating efficiencies, or even making sure that the users are doing things accurately. And then the last thing I want to call out around post-go-live usage of WalkMe is around the system enhancements. These ERP vendors are usually pushing releases 2 to 4 times a year, and using a DAP like WalkMe can help organizations avoid the more traditional ways of communicating these changes to users through email or maybe having a classroom training or a lunch and learn, and instead we can use some of the in-app guidance and shout-outs to let users know what's changing, how it's impacting them, right when it's relevant for them.
Mm-hmm. That was great, Lindsay. Do you also mind talking a little bit about who are your impacted personas or target audience for DAP?
Yeah, so we typically target the people that are going to be most impacted by the ERP transformation. And this will vary depending on the organization and the size of the transformation. But there are a few personas that we see come up more often that we try to keep in mind. So these personas all fit into more of that frontline worker. They are not people who have a typical desk job sitting in front of a computer. They're more people that are on site, maybe on the shop floor or out in the field. They're really critical to the operations of the business. They might be working atypical hours, so they might have a night shift, or if there's warehouses that are global, they could be working, throughout different time zones. So they really need that support around the clock. And sometimes these users are less familiar with using technology in this sort of way. We see some users are even using pen and paper, so going to a digital ERP is a big change for them to undergo. We see WalkMe is able to add some value to these roles by really accelerating their learning. Taking the people in these roles out of their daily job and putting them into more of a traditional classroom training has a big impact to the operations of the business. And so utilizing a digital adoption platform like WalkMe allows them to continue doing their operational job and get more of that training and support that they need on demand in application. So no matter what time of day it is or where they're operating from, they have that guidance that they need. It also helps these users support self-service. So if they're using the ERP and they run into a problem, rather than having to wait until some help desk might be open to support them, WalkMe provides the guidance and support they might need to resolve that issue that they're running into, at their fingertips right when they need it, rather than having to wait and potentially cause delays to operations. And then the last thing is that we sometimes see higher turnover in these types of roles. And so as people are leaving and being onboarded to these roles, there's a need for rapid learning of how the new technology and how to do these new processes. And so using a tool like WalkMe really helps make that a seamless experience.
What criteria would you typically use for determining a good WalkMe use case?
We look at a handful of criteria when determining what would make a good WalkMe use case. And the first one I'm going to talk about is business critical. We look to see if a process, is there going to be a big impact if a user doesn't do something accurately or on time? Is there going to be downstream impacts? Is there going to be a financial impact potentially? Another thing that we look at is the size of the audience. So even if the process might not be business critical, if there's thousands of employees completing a process, making sure that they have the right support and guidance is going to be important just because of the sheer volume that the process is being performed at. We also look at the frequency, or probably better said, the infrequency. So does the user have enough time between when they're performing the transaction to forget the process? We also look at, is there any efficiencies can we create? Is there 5 or 6 clicks before the user gets to the start point of a business process? Can we create shuttles or add in some auto steps that might shave, 15 seconds even from the business process? That can add up and make a pretty big impact. Also, we look to see, is this a part of a bigger process change? Is the change management pretty significant that it needs a little bit higher touch training and communications that we could provide with a digital adoption platform? And then the last thing is adding a solution using WalkMe going to improve the user experience in any sort of way? So the example that we see here is creating a maintenance request in SAP. And this example hits on a few of the criteria that I just talked about, but I think most importantly is the business criticality. If a user is not timely or accurate when submitting this maintenance request, it can cause delays or even downtime to the operations, which could ultimately have downstream impacts and even a financial loss to the organization. So now that I just talked about that example of creating a maintenance request, can you tell us a little bit about some success stories that you've seen?
Yes, I'll talk about a very recent implementation of S/4HANA for a client. So the client is a large manufacturer and distributor of agricultural products. As they were deploying S/4HANA, a critical component for them was to ensure that their sales team is able to utilize the transactions appropriately, and the support team is not spending so much time just resolving errors. Keeping that in mind, Deloitte advised them on WalkMe as a preferred digital adoption platform tool. And what we did is we segmented their processes to come up with a list of 40 advanced solutions that were built in WalkMe. Now, this included step-by-step walkthroughs. It included some guidance, some guided workflows, as well as call-outs, shout-outs, etc. in the production environment. We also segmented these walkthroughs to make sure that they are role-based. So only as a user, if I need to see a certain transaction or a certain guidance, I see that on the screen. Utilizing WalkMe as their digital adoption tool at the time of go live was very successful because it brought in efficiencies. We also advised them to utilize this as a platform analytics to understand go live metrics, right? And the data that we came back with were there were around 2,000 plus employees that interacted with WalkMe in their HCM and CRM platform with less than 5% defects, which was huge. So that accounted for their success story during the time of go live. But as the users started using the production system, they ran into a certain kind of error, which was called suspense error handling. Because of the numerous amount of suspense errors that were coming in, their support team and the sales function was spending a lot of time just resolving those errors. Thinking through, again, bringing in efficiencies and how DAP could support, Deloitte advised to bring in the WalkMe chatbot or the action bot feature to provide the first level support, right? So if you run into a certain kind of a suspense error, the chatbot will give you two options, right, to resolve your error. If that doesn't help, then you can go back to a support team to ask more. But then again, it brought in a huge amount of operational efficiency, saving time for the support team. So going back to the fitness journey analogy, right? We were saying that how a ERP transformation is very similar to a fitness transformation, and we brought it to life with this client organization that started with DAP in their initial ERP journey and brought it full circle with a post-go live adoption support. We have use cases like this of success where ERP and DAP come in together to make it easy not only for deployment, but also for your users to experience the technology.
This was a great conversation. Thanks, Deepti.
Thank you so much, Lindsay.
Thank you, Deepti and Lindsay, for sharing those incredible insights into how digital adoption platforms can truly transform our business processes and drive user adoption. We've seen today how ERP transformations are a marathon, not a sprint, and that DAPs are more than just tools. They're personal trainers guiding us through the complex fitness regime of those transformations. With the strategic use of DAPs, Deloitte is equipping people with the right sneakers, hydration, and guidance to not just complete the race, but to do so triumphantly. They've reminded us that it's not just about the go live. We are striving to continuously enhance operations, foster a culture of continuous learning, and ultimately steer organizations towards a future of sustained success. Let's take a moment to thank our brilliant speakers once again. Lindsay and Deepti, your expertise and passion inspire us to push boundaries and embrace change with confidence. And to everyone here, remember, your journey to digital fitness doesn't end at Go Live. Together, let's continue to drive progress, support one another as change makers, and transform our workplaces into hubs of innovation and efficiency.